I'd like to welcome Peggy Johnson to the stage. Peggy is Qualcomm's Executive Vice President and President of Global Market Development. One of the many hats she wears, in addition to being their top female executive and mother of three, is a particular interest in education, including how Qualcomm's Wireless Reach initiative has helped carry the benefits of mobile technologies to the classroom in poor urban and rural communities, both here and around the world. We're very grateful to Peggy for sponsoring this event. She's a champion of improving education by mobile learning. Peggy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Chris. It's a real honor to be back here again at Wireless EdTech. And in the year since I was here, we've made some huge strides in mobile education, but we have a lot more to do. There's still several obstacles out there. But I'm more convinced than ever that an audience like this, we're gathering the right group of people to try and solve for that and bring us into the 21st century educational classroom. You know, I don't know about you, but here I am holding my cell phone already. Do you have separation anxiety when you don't have your cell phone right next to you? I wanted to start with a poll. You know, speak about separation anxiety. That cell phone right there actually fell in the toilet a few days ago, and there was like panic in the household, and my husband says, "Get the rice," and my son said, "Get the baggie." And I don't know if you know this, I did not, but if you put your cell phone in a baggie of rice after it's fallen in water somehow, it can survive, and that's living proof. You have to leave it there for about 12 hours, but it worked. But that got us thinking about how you use your cell phones, where you keep your cell phones at night when you sleep. And we'd like you to take a poll using the poll everywhere. It's on page 17 of your program. And tell us where you leave your cell phone at night. Is it in the car, next to your bed, somewhere in your bedroom, maybe in another room of the house, or elsewhere, in the garage, in a tree house? Where does it go at night? And at the end of it, we'll look at the results. I think you'll find them very surprising. So as Chris said, you know, mobile is continuing to really transform people's lives, all areas of the world, not only in the established market, but in the emerging markets. And in some of the, you know, some of very surprising ways people are using mobile technology. They're fighting against counterfeit drugs in Nigeria using apps on a cell phone. They're looking for clean water and finding clean water access in Honduras. In Haiti, they're using it for ID. So just surprising ways that this mobile technology can help all sorts of social issues. It just completely changing rural villages and people's lives because of the introduction of this technology. In South Africa, rural clinicians have access to up-to-date medical information via the cell phone. So last year I stood up here and talked about how a lot of this is happening because of just the absolute prevalence of cell phones everywhere. In a world of 7 billion people, we have 5.7 billion connections. Last year when I stood here. This year, another 500 million connections have been added. And you know, certainly you and I might have 1 or 2 connections, but most people are getting their very first connection, and it's accelerating in the emerging markets, just absolutely, because prices are coming down, absolutely accelerating to the point where that gap is closing so quickly. Literally everybody in a very short period of time will have access to this kind of connectivity. The important thing is having access to 3G or mobile broadband. That's what will give you that data exchange and allow you the ability to improve your life. Right now, of that 6.3 billion, almost 2 billion are what's known as a 3G connection, and about half of that is in the emerging markets. So the emerging markets have tremendous access to the same information that you and I have, and they're using it, as you saw in the previous slide, in tremendous ways, helping improve people's lives. In just a few years, in 2016, 71% of the connections, 3G connections, are going to be in the emerging markets. So again, that's where the growth is. There's a couple reasons for this. Last year, I talked about mobile broadband exceeding the connections of fixed broadband. So again, it's it's more difficult to run a fiber or cable into a home and have a fixed broadband. We see that in our works at our homes. But when you look at these underserved areas around the world, the fastest and most efficient way to get broadband to people is through this umbrella of 3G. So right now, it's just surpassed. Mobile is just now surpassing fixed broadband connections. And in a few years, by 2016, 85% of the total broadband connections will be mobile. So simply, the trend is going that way. What used to sit on our desk and be connected to a wall is now in our pockets. Connectivity, compute capability is in our pockets now. Another reason for this, there was an interesting shift. The number of PC shipments and smartphone shipments shifted in 2011. Now more smartphones going out the door than PCs. That says that people are making that decision to, if you have a certain amount of disposable income, you want connectivity, you want compute power, they're starting to veer toward a smartphone because mobility is that important to them. It brings a whole nother level of access 24/7, anytime, anywhere that people value. And when you have a set amount of disposable income, they're going in that direction. So for many, both here in the established markets and in the emerging markets, people's first and only compute experience is going to be mobile. That's a fascinating thing. They're just skipping over the PC portion that you and I, all went through. They're going straight to mobile. The expectation is they'll get that compute power in mobile, and they'll get to expand upon that anywhere that they're at. They don't have to be in front of their PC sitting at their desk. The global smartphone penetration will reach about 3 billion in 2016. So that number that is now at 1 billion for 3G, we're going to have smartphones and 3G at about 3 billion. So we're nearing the halfway point where the world will be connected. So it's not just about the number of cell phones, tablets, PCs. It's really about what it does to our lives. And I talked about having that separation anxiety. We collaborated with Time magazine. If you haven't had a chance, you should pick up this issue, the mobility issue. And we talked to people in 8 different countries, established and emerging markets, and we asked them some questions about their mobile phone use, their mobile tablet use, what does it do to their everyday lives. And 3 very interesting statistics came out. 84% said they couldn't go a single day without their mobile devices in their hand, just wouldn't do it, just full stop. It was that important to them. Another 65% said they would take their mobile device with them in the morning instead of their lunch. So given the decision, you could only carry one thing, the lunch would be abandoned. They wouldn't eat that day because of their cell phone, because of their mobile device. I mean, that's just amazing. And the one that I found most amazing is the wallet. 44% said they would rather go without their wallet, with their money, their ID, previously our most personal and valuable asset in favor of their cell phone. So clearly permeating our lives, very much an appendage of us these days. But another interesting thing that came out of it is I think we've had maybe a misperception that parents are saying, I don't want my kids distracted by these cell phones. And that actually wasn't the case. 70% of the parents said that they wanted their kids to learn about technology with their mobile devices, 70%. And they know that there may be some downside to the distraction, but the upside of having a device in their child's hands outweighed the downside. Another 66% of the parents said that they felt it made them better parents to have a cell phone, to have their child have one, and for them to have one. They could answer questions more quickly, they were connected with their child. So many positives around that equation, which previously we weren't quite sure what parents were feeling these days about technology. Most of them thought that by about 13, that was an appropriate age to introduce a mobile device to the child. So when you say we've got willing parents, we've got all this great mobile technology, what is holding us back from leveraging that for a 21st century classroom? And another thing, if we're looking at the landscape of where mobile is and who has access to it, if you go to the far right, the 90% column, 90% of the world's population is now covered by the umbrella of mobility. Some mobile network is covering 90% of the world's population. And 80% of the world's rural population is covered. I'm getting ready at the end of this trip to head to India. 70% of the population is in a rural area. Much of it is covered. We had a chance to take a trip through India over the holidays this year with my family, and we went into little villages here and there. Everybody has cell phones. Coverage is everywhere. It's amazing. And the middle statistic, 78% of people have access to a mobile phone, which that means maybe they don't own one, but someone they know in their community and their family has access to one. They can get to a mobile phone. Now compare that to 29% of the world's population having access to a fixed internet. That, I mean, simply overpowering it. It's just too difficult to get a wire to everybody's home. That number is going down because people aren't continuing to make those connections. They're relying on the mobile phone. They're relying on the mobile networks. So when we look at education, no one's going to argue with this, that it's fundamental to the strength of societies. Clearly, continuing to improve the quality of education the world over is important to all of us in this room, for our children, for our economies. McKinsey did an interesting study the other day, though. They said, looking at kids born in 2010 across 40 different countries, and they said if we could improve the quality of education just a little bit, that would have an impact on those children's lives on GDP of about $115 trillion. So a small, small increase in education, in the quality of education, has this huge economic benefit. And that is not to be taken, to be dismissed. That is something that says there is a reason we should be doing this. There's a reason we should continue to improve upon education. It's good for all of us. It's good for our economies. It's good for our families, our children going forward. Also in this McKinsey study, very interesting, I think people have said mobile education, is there a business there? There's absolutely a business there. The opportunity is large already and growing larger. Right now, it's about a $3.4 billion business, so a lot of activity, a lot of good content being developed, a lot of great tools being developed for teachers. But what's really exciting is by 2020, it'll be 20 times that, about a $70 billion industry. Huge growth in this area. A little bit untapped. Huge growth in the next 8 years, 20 times what we're seeing today. So again, with those statistics I presented earlier, you can see the opportunity is there. So there is a great business here for different parts of the ecosystem for all sorts of constituencies. Now, what do we need to do to prepare for this mobile future? We really need to innovate now in our classrooms because our kids, also in this same McKinsey study, they found that kids today who are in grade school today, 65% of the jobs that they'll end up holding haven't even been created yet. So clearly technology is playing a role in this. I mean, some of the jobs that are here today, when we were kids, we wouldn't have known about what a social media analyst is, and certainly the Facebook and Twitter jobs that have come up, those might not have been thought of, but 65%, that's a whole new bunch of categories of jobs. And a lot of it is being driven by this innovation economy. And at Qualcomm, when we think about our employees, our 21st century employees, and how they interact, they have to think and innovate independently. They have to interact with employees locally and globally, seamlessly. An employee that sits in India or in Brazil is just like an employee that sits in the office next to me. We have the tools to do it. Our whole workday is surrounded by tools that allow us to act that way. That's how we need to ensure that our kids are learning as well. That's how, can you imagine if your phone was taken away, what your day would look like, or your mobile device? We need to allow our kids to have that same access, to have that information at their fingertips. Now, NASA has been involved in some community and school-based organizations that look at underserved communities in the States and help get kids interested in STEM education. Qualcomm does quite a bit of that as well. We need more companies to do that, to just increase the awareness of what a STEM education will do, what careers in STEM will do, and a lot of that starts with the tools they're using in the classrooms today. So what do these tools look like? Basically, when you have the introduction of wireless technology into the classroom, you could take advantage of all sorts of new technologies that we're enabling. You can take a classroom, your standard classroom, and you can begin to personalize the data and the content that's delivered to each individual student. You can coach them better, and the kids can coach each other if they all have devices through peer-to-peer networks. Things like augmented reality, I told you a little bit about that last time, where you hold up your device using the camera on the device, and maybe you're looking at a cell, and the camera sees the cell and then overlays on top of that all sorts of information about the cell. Maybe the cell spins around. You can see inside of the cell. You can see how a cell is broken down, all through the use of the camera on your phone to augment the reality that the child is seeing. Amazing stuff. The other thing we need to do is help our kids synthesize and analyze all this data. It's a lot of data. How does it come down? How does it get aggregated in such a way that it's useful, that it's just not loads of data thrown at them? And these tools for teachers and tools for students, can help do that. And lastly, the assessment part is amazing. You can teach a concept, you can do a quick survey, a quick quiz to the class, and figure out who got the concept. If no one got it, maybe you didn't teach it right, you have to tweak it a little bit and try it again. But it gives you that instantaneous feedback. It's not 3 weeks later, it's not the next day, it's right then and there. You know what happened. That's what wireless technology can do for us in the classroom. So one of the ways that Qualcomm has been looking at kind of bridging that gap, how do we get to that vision, is we've used our Wireless Reach initiative. Now, Wireless Reach covers several categories. We go into underserved communities and introduce wireless technology to show how it can improve different aspects of people's lives. And we're doing this with 73 projects across 31 countries around the world in all these different categories. But clearly, near and dear to our hearts is education. And we've been looking at solving that problem. How do you get over the obstacles that still exist in introducing wireless into classrooms? And we do that in a number of ways. We have several pilot projects around the world in many different countries. And we try and break down the problem in 4 areas, at least, that we see that have been most problematic, if you will. The basic infrastructure for a mobile ecosystem to exist doesn't exist in some places, and so we need to make sure we can overcome that obstacle. Digital content, very, very, very important. It's not just PDFs on Kindles. It's really about an immersive education experience, an interactive educational experience, and we definitely need more of that, and quality digital content. Then there's the whole topic of teachers being introduced to these tools and being comfortable with them to change their teaching style enough that they can embrace these new tools. So it's quite a bit of teacher development that needs to go along with the introduction of these programs. And then lastly, the safety and security of that information, of the child's personal information, of test results, of family information. That all needs to be protected, and mobile devices do a pretty good job of that. We can lock those things down. We can actually put passwords down in hardware in the devices. So we can do a very good job of keeping that content safe and secure. So I'd like to share a couple of the programs that we do. Last year I talked about this Onslow County project called Project Connect, where we went and we took kids who were at risk in North Carolina, and we gave them smartphones that were equipped with math content and tools for them to learn math. And we allowed them to use the devices 24/7. And I talked about the collaboration that went on, not only between the teacher and the child outside the 4 walls of the schoolhouse, but with the kids, amongst each other. There was a lot of collaboration. And this young girl, Taylor Scott, she's an interesting case. She's one of the young folks that worked with us on this project. And when she was first introduced to Project Connect, she was not very engaged with math. She didn't like math, very uncomfortable with it, didn't think she was good at it. She started to work with the program. She was one of the students who got one of the smartphones, ended up going on to complete Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus, Calculus AP, AP Stats, getting a 95% average in these classes, 95% average. Didn't realize she loved math. And it was the devices and the content and the collaboration between the teachers and the other kids that did that for her. She ended up going on to get scholarships, both local and national scholarships. She's now a freshman, University of North Carolina, studying pharmaceutical sciences. Just a great proof point, but one of many that came out of this, this project. Just amazing results, very tangible results. You know, a child who didn't like math, introduced via wireless technologies and came out the other end, loves it. And she'll tell you her story if you ever run into her. In our own backyard, San Diego Unified School District, we were able to take advantage of the Learning on the Go pilot that the FCC has introduced a few years back. And basically that was looking to see, will taking broadband off campus, having access to broadband off campus, does that prove any results? And several of our schools in the San Diego Unified School District took advantage of that program. And one in particular, Innovation Middle School, really came out with some amazing numbers. Students who had access to broadband off campus, I mean, again, these are students who don't have Wi-Fi in their home, don't have any sort of other wireless access at all. They raised their API test scores by 43%. Again, very tangible results came out of this, 43%. And 7th graders who were part of this project were able to raise their math abilities from proficient to advanced at a much greater rate than the 7th graders who were not part of the project. Very tangible results with the introduction of mobile broadband, just as simple as that, a device that allowed them to access content off campus. So let's hear about some of the students and teachers that were in this pilot.
Like the invisible kids, the kids who never participate, are really, really shy. And I still have kids in my classroom, but online, their personalities just shine. And the kids who never would raise their hand in class ask questions online. So they're on the Edmodo site and they're asking questions, or they're private messaging me, or they're blogging about it. So it's really, it allowed everyone to have a voice in the classroom and to get the assistance that they need in order to succeed.
And now this is gold opportunity for her, because I think so she learn more, and she make better the homework, and she learn more. I absolutely know she learn more for that.
I don't have to sit around do paper every day. It's actually something interesting, and you can do stuff that you never even thought you could do with a laptop.
I'm excited because we'll have a computer at home, and I just like the point of having a computer and doing the homework.
So no matter where we are, we can get internet access. So if I'm on my way to school and I need to check something, I can do that in the car. Or if we're like on a road trip or something, I can look up and I can see if there's any missing assignments or anything I have to do while I'm out of school.
All right, again, just terrific proof points. And then one last project internationally. It was called Radiophone, and we did this in collaboration with Sesame Street, Sesame Workshop. And they're in India, not everybody, not every family has access to government-sponsored schools. And in this particular case, there's a group of individuals who are migratory, and they go from job to job in different areas, and they, through culture and some language barriers, they just don't ever have access to official formalized school. And even in these communities, we found that the introduction of educational content could be very, very helpful. In this particular case, the introduction of content was all about personal hygiene and cleanliness. This particular family, it was a mom, she has 2 kids and she works 2 jobs. And she found that she just didn't have enough time in a day to teach her kids about basic cleanliness. So in came 3G phones that had pictures and animated videos and things on it, that the content showed what it meant to find good drinking water and how it can help you. basic personal hygiene, taking out the trash, that sort of things. And that ended up having an effect, kind of a halo effect on the community around that one cell phone, because everybody started to do it. Everybody started to learn from that, and on and on and on. So just a little bit of information, a little bit of education in an informal way, no access to formal education, we were able to show a great impact in these communities and sort of raise the level of awareness about what a healthy environment can do for families. So this is just one example of what the power of mobile devices can do, and sort of the impact that this kind of content can have on families. Just amazing stuff. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. So embarrassing. Sorry about this. Sorry.
Hi, everybody. Oh, hi, Miss Peggy. Elmo's so sorry he couldn't come to see you in Washington, D.C. for this important tech meeting. Elmo wishes he could be there because Elmo loves learning every day on Sesame Street. And Elmo loves learning on the go with mobile things like cell phones, tablets, and apps. Learning with technology is so cool. And it's so easy, too. Elmo's mommy and daddy told him that learning new technology is not always easy for you, you baby boomers. Just imagine using a tablet with your hand covered in fur. Oh, don't worry. We can work that out together, you and I. Anyway, Elmo hopes to see you all very soon. Hey, maybe we can Skype sometime. Huh? Who was that, Mommy? Time to update Elmo's Facebook status? Oh, okay, gotta go. Elmo loves you. Coming, Mommy.
All right, thanks, Elmo. Who would have thought that Elmo would be talking about Skype and Facebook? But again, he is. And that's just part of the world that we live in. So we've talked a lot about how our current educational system was created during the Industrial Revolution. And it very much is still there. We still have a teacher in front of many students, and we move kids from classroom to classroom in a very structured manner, much like this assembly line here. It's all punctuated by bells and a lot of structure. And what we'd like to do is kind of turn that around. We have kids now from all different experiences, all different backgrounds, all different languages, all sharing the same classroom. Should we treat them all like that, where we just move them through the process? I think the opportunity we have here with wireless technology is to offer a customized experience to these kids who have these varying backgrounds. We have the opportunity to individually have an opportunity to teach them that might be different from another child in the same classroom through wireless. So why is our education system still kind of stuck in this industrial mode, and how do we get it into the 21st century? Again, strongly believe that mobile computing and communication technology advancements are the answer to this. We've seen so many workplace advancements. As I talked about Qualcomm, I'm sure several of you have the same sort of advancements in your workplace over the years. Information's at our fingertips, of course. It's just there. We completely take that for granted. And that's what our children need to be able to do as well in the classrooms. And if you think about what your life would be if your mobile device would be taken away and you didn't have that immediate access to information, we don't want to deny our kids that same ability to tap into what they need to know. So really, these constituencies working together are going to be the answer to a mobile education ecosystem. We obviously need government. Operators, we need good data plans that are tailored for our schools. Educators themselves have to be open to these new ideas, open to some switch in their current way that they teach, looking at some new and different ways. Change is always a little bit uncomfortable, but we've got to get people on board with that. Publishers, we want different content. We want publishers to take advantage of what these mobile devices can do. Great 3D graphics and multimedia and fast processors, always-on devices. Take advantage of that, 7/24 access. And then the manufacturers themselves. We want tools that teachers and students can interact with each other in a peer-to-peer way so that we can experience classrooms wherever learning takes place. The FCC and the Learning on the Go project, just to point out, to concentrate on that one area, that program, unfortunately, is winding down. What we need to do is highlight there were actually tangible, real results from that program. And hopefully, we can convince them to bring that back again. How do we take classrooms to a new level? Well, I think it's about a little less paperwork and a little more interactivity between the teachers and the students. We'd like teachers to be able to give individual assignments electronically to their students, and then the students to be able to share amongst each other. You know, your cell phone is full of radios. It has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth, it's got GPS, it's got the cellular radio, and you can do a lot with the interaction of those radios. As kids gather together in a classroom, those radios can talk to each other in a peer-to-peer fashion, and then when they go to the next classroom, a different grouping comes together. So there's sort of virtual proximate networks that can happen and then break up again. And using those radios, you can offload the infrastructure from the existing infrastructure at the school. You can have a small little network right in that classroom. So we need to take advantage of the advances that these devices are bringing to the forefront. And obviously, all of this can be done in a very secure manner using the capabilities on the mobile devices. I talked a little bit last year about going outdoors with this. EcoMobile and Harvard Graduate School of Education have teamed up to create a great experience where kids can take their devices outdoors using augmented reality, holding it up to different things that they see. Data can come in on top of that, and the students can learn, and they can collaborate with each other. And Chris Dede is going to tell you a little bit more about this at the 11 a.m. session and what all went into this augmented reality app that was developed. But I think what's interesting is that after just 4 months, teachers found that the students were more, the learning was more student-driven. They were collaborating with each other. And most interesting, where scores were raised by 19%. Again, a very strong proof point that the introduction of technology does work. And one other thing that was probably a little strange last year, I talked about the digital sixth sense as a futuristic concept. Well, in the past year, we've actually released a platform called Gimbal that starts to take advantage of some of these sensors and things that are on phones that allow content relevant to you at that certain time and place in your day to come in. And then when you're at a different time and place, it doesn't. So it's a way of filtering smartly. In this example, what this can mean for education is you can have a class of kids walking around Washington. The device knows exactly where they're at. They know which monument they're in front of. They hold the device up in front of the monument, and right away they can see a speech that was delivered on the steps of the monument. They can look at digital maps that show them from this point here, here's how to get to the next interesting historic building. So it's knowing where you're at and who you are. You're an 8th grader on a field trip in Washington, and it can present appropriate content to you. And that's here now. So we've released a software development kit. You can download it. It's called Gimbal. We have a lot of developers who are starting to take advantage of that. But we think the real opportunity is in the area of education with that. So now it's time to look at our results of our earlier poll. So next to the bed, there you go. And I have to say, that's me right there. I didn't get a chance to say that. But I don't know about you, but my phone started down in the kitchen, and then somewhere along the line it walked down the hallway, and it was in the bedroom, and then eventually it was on the nightstand. And so I don't know how this happens, but it truly is the first thing I look at in the morning, and the last thing I look at before I go to sleep at night. And that's just the way these things have invaded our lives, but in a good way. So I think that's it. I think the important thing is that We're continuing to have this conversation. We've got the right group of people in the room. We've got the right people to build that mobile education ecosystem. And I look forward to hearing all of your ideas and look forward to great progress again between this year and next year. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.